Some voices echo beyond silence. When Ray walked onto the Tonight Show stage with that soulful presence and raw vulnerability that had made her music a beacon for the brokenhearted, nobody expected her to reveal the most devastating chapter of her healing mission. Jimmy Fallon had planned an inspiring interview about Ray's meteoric rise and her latest album. The audience was ready for the powerhouse vocals and emotional depth that always came with a Ray appearance. But what Ray was about to confess would silence Studio 6B and prove that sometimes the most important songs are the last ones, recorded not for charts or fame, but to preserve the voices of children before cancer steals them forever. The cameras were rolling, the audience already captivated by Ray's magnetic authenticity, and then she spoke 12 words that changed everything. I help kids record their last songs before cancer steals their voice forever. What came next wasn't just television. It was a revelation about legacy, mortality, and the sacred responsibility of ensuring that young voices live on in music even when their bodies cannot. Ray had always been known for her emotional transparency and vocal power, the British artist who turned pain into poetry, who used her platform to address mental health and personal struggles with unflinching honesty. But what audiences didn't know was that Ray's understanding of voice as both gift and fragility had been shaped by her own battles with vocal damage and anxiety, and that trauma had awakened a calling to help children facing the unthinkable loss of their ability to speak and sing. The final voice sessions had begun 4 years earlier, during a period when Ray was recovering from severe vocal strain that had threatened her own career and left her temporarily unable to sing. The experience of potentially losing her voice had given her profound insight into what it meant for someone's ability to communicate and express themselves to be under threat, especially children whose voices were just beginning to develop their unique sound. When I couldn't sing for 3 months due to vocal damage, I felt like I was losing my identity, Ray later explained. My voice wasn't just how I made music, it was how I connected with the world, how I expressed my deepest feelings. The thought of losing that forever was terrifying. Throat and vocal cord cancers affect thousands of children annually, often requiring treatments that damage or destroy vocal function. Unlike adult patients who have had years to develop their voice and communication style, children with these cancers face losing their voice before they've had the chance to discover what it might become, creating a unique tragedy that combines medical crisis with identity loss. These kids are facing something unimaginable, Ray said with obvious emotion. They're not just losing their health, they're losing their voice, their ability to sing, to express themselves, to sound like themselves. Many of them will never speak normally again, and some won't survive at all. Ray's first encounter with a child losing their voice to cancer had been through a chance meeting at Great Ormond Street Hospital, where she had been visiting to support children's charities. 9-year-old Emma had been diagnosed with laryngeal cancer that would require surgery and radiation therapy, almost certain to destroy her vocal cords. Emma loved to sing, Ray remembered with tears. Her mom played me videos of Emma performing at school concerts, singing lullabies to her baby brother, just being this joyful kid whose voice was her way of sharing love with the world, and then cancer was going to take that away from her permanently. The conversation with Emma's family had revealed the heartbreaking reality that many children with vocal cancer face. Not only were they fighting for their lives, but they were also mourning the loss of their voice while still healthy enough to use it, knowing that upcoming treatments would silence them forever. Emma's mom asked me something that broke my heart, Ray recalled. She said, "Is there any way Emma could record some songs before her surgery? Something we could keep forever so we never forget what her voice sounded like?" That request had inspired Ray to research the specific needs of children facing voice-threatening cancers and the families who wanted to preserve their children's vocal legacy. Working with pediatric oncologists and music therapists, Ray had discovered that many families desperately wanted recordings of their children's voices but lacked access to professional recording equipment or expertise. These families are dealing with the most stressful, terrifying time of their lives, RAYE explained. They're focused on treatment schedules, medical appointments, fighting for their child's survival. But in quiet moments, they're also grieving the voice their child is about to lose, wishing they had more recordings of their baby singing, talking, just being themselves. Working with recording engineers and child life specialists, RAYE had developed an approach that brought professional recording equipment directly to hospitals and homes, creating high-quality audio memories of children's voices before treatment began. These aren't just recordings, RAYE emphasized, they're audio legacies. We're preserving not just songs, but the sound of a child's laughter, their way of saying, "I love you," their silly voices when they're being goofy. We're creating permanent records of who these kids are before cancer changes them forever. Over 4 years, RAYE's Final Voice program had worked with 59 children facing vocal cancer or treatments that would permanently affect their ability to speak and sing. Each session was personalized based on the child's interests, energy level, and medical timeline, with recordings made in environments where children felt comfortable and safe. I worked with this 7-year-old boy named Oliver who was obsessed with dinosaurs, RAYE remembered with tenderness. Oliver's surgery was scheduled for the following week, and his parents wanted recordings of him singing his favorite songs and doing his dinosaur impressions that always made the family laugh. The recording session with Oliver had captured not just his singing voice, but his personality, his humor, and his spirit in audio form that his family could treasure regardless of how his treatment affected his future communication abilities. Oliver sang "You Are My Sunshine" for his baby sister, did all his dinosaur voices, and told jokes that made everyone in the room cry with laughter, RAYE said with obvious love. His mom said it was the most beautiful gift our family could ever receive, having Oliver's voice preserved exactly as it was when he was healthy and happy. The approach worked because it acknowledged that voice loss was not just a medical side effect, but a profound identity change that affected entire families, creating lasting memories that could provide comfort and connection regardless of medical outcomes. There was this 12-year-old girl named Sophia who was an incredible singer before her cancer diagnosis, RAYE shared with emotion. Sophia's dream was to be a professional vocalist, but her treatment would destroy her vocal cords. She wanted to record an album of her favorite songs as a way of saying goodbye to the career she'd never have. Sophia's recording sessions had been among the most emotionally complex of the program. Over several weeks, Sophia had recorded 15 songs that represented her musical dreams and her love for her family, creating a professional quality album that honored both her talent and her loss. Sophia's album became her way of processing her grief about losing her singing voice. RAYE explained she could pour all her feelings about her diagnosis, her fear, her love for music into those recordings. It was her final performance, but also her way of showing her family that her voice would live on in those songs. The most profound moments came when children realized that their recordings would become precious gifts to their families, ways of staying connected even if they could no longer speak or if they didn't survive their cancer treatment. Oliver's surgery went well, but his voice was completely changed afterward, RAYE said with tears. He can speak, but he sounds completely different and he can't sing anymore. But his family plays his recordings every night at bedtime, and Oliver smiles when he hears his old voice singing to his sister. Those recordings let him remember who he was before cancer changed everything. Several families had reported that RAYE's recordings had become their most treasured possessions, providing comfort during difficult treatment periods and serving as permanent connections to their children's pre-cancer selves. I got a letter from Sophia's mom 6 months after. Sophia passed away, RAYE shared with profound sadness. She said that listening to Sophia's album helped the family feel like she was still singing to them, that her voice was still part of their daily lives even though she was gone. Tonight's appearance on The Tonight Show was supposed to focus on Ray's latest album, which explored themes of resilience, identity, and finding strength through vulnerability. Jimmy had planned to discuss her artistic growth, maybe get her to perform a few songs, definitely tap into the raw emotion that made her such a compelling voice for young people facing their own struggles. The interview had started with Ray's characteristic honesty and warmth. She had shared insights about her music, discussed her approach to mental health advocacy, and demonstrated the authentic vulnerability that had made her a trusted voice for fans dealing with depression and anxiety. But when Jimmy asked about how RAYE used her voice to help others and whether her own vocal struggles had taught her anything about the precious nature of being able to sing, something shifted in her expression. The question had been meant to explore her artistic philosophy, but it had touched on something much more heartbreaking that RAYE had been considering sharing publicly for the first time. "You know, Jimmy," RAYE said, her voice taking on unusual gravity, "when you almost lose your voice like I did, you realize it's not just an instrument for making music. It's how you connect with people, how you express love, how you leave pieces of yourself in the world. And that realization led me to the most important work I've ever done." The audience grew quieter, sensing that RAYE was moving into territory that was more personal than her usual discussions about mental health and creativity. "It sounds like your vocal struggles taught you something profound," Jimmy said, with genuine interest. RAYE was quiet for a moment, her usual confidence replaced by deep vulnerability. "They taught me that voice is identity, especially for children. And for 4 years, I've been working with kids who are about to lose their voices to cancer, helping them record their final songs before treatment steals their ability to sing forever." The studio fell completely silent. This was an unexpectedly devastating and specific revelation. "RAYE, you're working with children who are losing their voices to cancer?" Jimmy asked softly. RAYE's eyes filled with tears, a sight that was particularly powerful, coming from someone known for her emotional strength and resilience. "I'm helping kids preserve their voices before cancer takes them away. These children will never sing again after their treatment, and some won't survive at all, but their voices can live forever in recordings." The audience was completely silent now, witnessing a side of RAYE that transcended her artistry, the raw compassion of someone who had transformed her own vocal trauma into a mission to preserve children's voices before they were lost forever. "Jimmy, can I tell you about something that's taught me what music really means?" RAYE asked, her voice growing stronger despite her tears. "Please," Jimmy replied, clearly understanding that something sacred was being shared. RAYE took a deep breath and spoke directly to the camera. "I run a program called Final Voice for children with throat cancer. 59 kids over 4 years, helping them record their last songs before treatment destroys their vocal cords forever." Jimmy's expression changed completely as he grasped what RAYE was describing. "You're preserving children's voices before cancer takes them away? I'm making sure that families have permanent recordings of their children's voices, their singing, their laughter, their way of saying, 'I love you,' before cancer silences them," RAYE replied with quiet conviction. Tears were streaming down Jimmy's face. "Can you tell us about one of these children?" "Emma was 9 when I met her," RAYE said, her voice becoming tender. "She loved singing lullabies to her baby brother, but laryngeal cancer was going to destroy her vocal cords. We recorded an album of her singing all his favorite songs, so he'd always have his sister's voice singing him to sleep." RAYE paused, gathering herself to continue. "Emma's surgery went well, but she'll never sing again. Her voice is completely different now, but every night her family plays her recordings, and Emma smiles when she hears herself singing the way she used to sound." "How do you handle the emotional weight of this work?" Jimmy asked through his tears. "By knowing that these children's voices will outlive their cancer," RAYE replied with profound wisdom. "Their voices become gifts to their families, ways of staying connected, even when cancer changes everything. Music makes them immortal. The audience was openly emotional, many people crying as they witnessed this revelation about RAYE's private work preserving children's voices before cancer stole them forever. RAYE, how has this work changed your understanding of what it means to have a voice? Jimmy asked. It's taught me that voice isn't just about singing, it's about being remembered, RAYE replied with hard-won understanding. These children showed me that the most important songs aren't the ones that make you famous, they're the ones that let you live forever in the hearts of people who love you. As the segment concluded, something unprecedented happened. The entire studio audience sat in profound silence for nearly 3 minutes before erupting in sustained applause that transcended appreciation. It was recognition of love preserving what cancer tried to steal, acknowledgement that they had witnessed someone using their gift to ensure that young voices would echo through eternity. RAYE's revelation became one of the most moving Tonight Show segments in the program's history, inspiring conversations about childhood cancer, the importance of preserving memories, and the power of music to create permanent connections that survive even death. Most importantly, RAYE's disclosure had shown that sometimes the most important performances happen not on stages, but in quiet rooms where children's voices are captured forever, ensuring that cancer may silence their bodies, but can never steal their song.